Okay. All right, we're back. So before I tell you more about our speakers, I just want to say thanks to our division sponsors for 2014 to 2015. They're listed here. I won't read them for you, but they've been a great help to us. And I do want to say that we are currently bringing on new sponsors for the 2015 to 2016 sponsorship year, which starts April 1st. So if you're interested in sponsoring the division, please shoot us an email or go to the link I've provided to find more information about that. Just a few notes here. We are approved for one AICP CM credit, and your attendance is required for the entire event to receive the credit. And I'll send out some instructions after the event, and I'll give you the number as well. I'll also send out an evaluation form, so if you have any thoughts about either other webinars you'd like to see, or if you have comments about this webinar, we'd love to hear them. We will do a Q&A session after all speakers are done. I'll read the questions, so just feel free to type them into the chat box. You can either do them publicly or directly to me. And we'll try to follow up on any questions that don't get answered, but hopefully we'll be able to manage the time well. So today's speakers we'll start out with Joanna Netto, who oversees the Sustainable Communities and Green Neighborhoods programs at Audubon International. And she's going to give sort of an overview of what we'll talk about today, and she'll participate throughout the session. Sal Salona is the chair of the Sustainability Community Alliance Committee at Rio Verde. Sheila Rose, AICP, has worked in planning and land development for 23 years and is presently employed with the City of Coconut Creek as the Director of Sustainable Development. And Linda Whitman is a landscape architect, or a registered landscape architect, and she is currently the City of Coconut Creek's Sustainable Coordinator. So if any of you want to elaborate on your backgrounds while you're speaking, please feel free. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Joanna.
Great. Thanks, Jennifer. I'm really excited to have the chance to do this. We were glad to be asked to be the first official division presentation. And thanks to everybody for joining us. So we're going to be talking about our experience here at Audubon International and several of the communities that we've worked with. I'm based here in Albany, New York, and for those that don't know, Audubon International is an independent nonprofit environmental organization that's been around for over 25 years. And we have a range of certification programs that provide not only a clear process to achieving sustainability goals, provide recognition for those that achieve those goals, and we provide in-depth technical assistance along the way. AI is an independent organization who doesn't focus on raising money like some conservation organizations do, but instead on doing direct education and technical assistance to our members and empowering them to do good environmental stewardship. So we work with a range of entities through our Audubon Cooperative Sanctuary Program, our Signature Program for New Development, and Green Lodging Program. But today I'm primarily going to be drawing from my experience in overseeing our Sustainable Communities Program, where we help communities be great, healthy, vibrant places to live, work, and play through certification, education, and technical assistance. And we've been offering this program since 2003. It's been growing in recent years because of increase in promoting it and letting people know that it existed. It was a small program for quite a while. And so we use this model. Yes?
Sorry to interrupt you. Could you expand your slides to the slideshow format in PowerPoint?
Oh. Do you know how to tell me to do that?
Yep, it's that. Oh, it's not showing up as such, even though I see you're clicking on it.
Oh, okay. Hold on one second. Sorry, folks. 1 second. Let me fix the... Are you getting it now?
It's still setting up. Yes, perfect.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. So we're talking about sustainable communities because we're hearing from communities that planning for the future is really just another way of saying, being sustainable. And communities want to be sustainable these days because that's what's drawing residents, that's what's drawing businesses, and that's what's drawing tourism. So a couple of quotes here from one from the National Association of Realtors, that people are really looking for homes and communities that are resource efficient and sensitive to the environment. And then from Richard Florida, who writes about the need to have amenities to attract talent and to then attract business investment or do economic development. Also, there's really this great market in ecotourism, tourism in general, around nature and experiencing nature through recreation. It's now 7% of the global market and $77 billion annually spent on ecotourism. And this is going to be a growing sector. So communities that are sustainable and able to market themselves as such are those that can really draw in talent and draw in tourists to come and enjoy what your natural and cultural assets are. So here's a few of the communities that we're working with. We have certified 4 communities, and those 4 in bold listed here are the certified sustainable communities that have worked with us through our program. You'll see you've got one in Florida, Coconut Creek, which we'll be hearing about today. Eufaula, Alabama, which was actually the first community that we certified. Williamston, North Carolina, who is a small community near coastal North Carolina. And Stone Mountain Resort in Vermont. We have 15 other communities pursuing certification, and you can see that a lot of the communities we work with are in sort of a smaller size, although we are able and have worked with cities up to 300,000 people. There's actually one we'll be announcing soon, a new member that's a big city. But so this program is really a way to structure planning for sustainability. And so that's really what we're going to talk about today is what do you do if you want to be planning for sustainability? So having a comprehensive sustainability plan is going to be something that will distinguish your community as a place where you're forward-thinking, and it ensures that the way that you develop in the future and the way that you manage your community are going to be good over the long term for your economics, your environment, and your social overall well-being. So a process for this really is starting out with involving your community, making sure that your plan is community-based, making sure it's fact-based by doing assessments, making sure it's practical and comprehensive, which we do in the sustainable planning stage, and then making sure that it's really turning into real changes on the ground through implementation. So the first step that you really need is a representative group that can oversee a sustainable planning process. So we recommend a steering committee that can then take on a baseline assessment, doing a self-examination of ecological conditions, public and private practices and policies. How is sustainability currently being addressed in your community? And so are you supporting local businesses? Are you preserving open space? Are you promoting health and activity? What are your strengths and weaknesses in all these different areas? So we'll take stock of the community in that initial step in order to then make plans for areas that need improvement and to promote the successes of those areas where you're doing well. In the program, members receive recommendations for responding to the baseline assessment and tools to do the assessment. So using the information gathered in that first stage and then doing some additional work, you're ready to develop a comprehensive sustainability plan. The priorities for your community should be developed based on getting input of local people's concerns, doing maybe a ranking of which areas you think are most important, and areas, making sure you include areas that have the most room for improvement. Getting community input can be done through surveys, through community meetings, and really you're looking to get people to help you understand the vision that they have for the community, and then start to articulate that vision into goals and objectives, and then brainstorm strategies, and ultimately create a plan that is linked to, goals that are linked to indicators that you can measure over time. One of the things I recommend that a community do in the beginning of this process is to assemble a portfolio of existing projects and partners that might be sustainability related. That identifying responsible parties early in the process that may not even see themselves as related to sustainability can help you sort of build a coalition effort around your sustainability program. If a plan has already been developed in your community, it's totally possible to do an update process or just do a reevaluation of your plan to see if maybe there's supplemental materials you want to add on to it to make sure it encompasses these kind of standard practices. And there are communities that have worked with us, and if they've gone through this process, they would have received the Audubon International Sustainable Planning Award. So if you hear about that, that's what that means. That's sort of a step on the way to the certification. So the focus areas listed here are these sort of a detailed list of the areas of your community that are affected by your practices, the areas of your community where sustainability is affected. And so the three categories on the right, environmental well-being, social well-being, economic well-being, are sort of drawn out into more detail in these 15 focal areas. So we look at each one with that basic eye to what's happening already in your community in the assessment, and then in the planning stage, looking at what goals do you have for each of these areas. And this is what ensures really a comprehensive, holistic approach. And you'll drill down into each of these to identify specific projects and policy changes to go within the plan, and identify areas where you're doing well to go ahead and start promoting your successes. I want to tell you about a new resource that APA has created. It actually aligns really nicely with the way we approach planning as well. This resource really should be referenced when a community is developing a comprehensive plan with sustainability in mind. So this PAS report on the left, Sustaining Places Best Practices for Comprehensive Plans, was just released this year. It was developed by the Sustaining Places Initiative, and actually is sort of a second piece of an earlier report released in 2012 on the role of the comprehensive plan in sustainability. You'll see as I go through this, it overlaps a fair amount with what we do. The APA Best Comprehensive Plan Practices and Principles are listed here in sort of their basic categories. They want to see a comprehensive plan that addresses these 6 principles, and each principle has best practices identified. So the livable built environment practice, there are 11 practices within it. Also, the best practices for planning would include processes, characteristics of your process, making sure that there's authentic participation, that and that you make sure you have implementation and that you're accountable for that implementation. And then other attributes include having consistent content throughout the plan, and that it's coordinated both regionally and within itself. So the stage 2 step that I mentioned includes a lot of the characteristics identified by APA in terms of processes and attributes. And then the principles you can see linked here with those 15 focal areas. They've distilled it down into a smaller number, but you can see that, for example, our open space and land use, planning, zoning, building and development, and transportation focal areas are where the practices of the livable built environment and responsible regionalism seem to be really embedded and sort of overlapping. So just to give you that background on sort of some frameworks for sustainability planning, but we really want to get into some examples of how this has been done. So we're going to share 2 case studies with you today. The first one is Rio Verde in Arizona. This is actually a private community, and Sustainable Communities Program works with both private and public municipalities. So we have a track that's set up for private communities. We will talk about that example in the Rio Verde case, and then we'll talk about the track that we use with municipalities when we go into talking about Coconut Creek's experience in Florida. So for those of you that don't know, Rio Verde is located outside of Phoenix in central Arizona. If you can see here on this map, it's located along the the Verde River, which of course is where it gets its name, and is nestled amongst some national forest and mountain trail lands that are set aside outside the city. So it's sort of nestled in and amongst nature. It's a community, a small community, somewhat seasonal community of some retirees and but primarily an age-restricted adult community. And this is because it's a private community, it's overseen by a community association that has a board of directors, and the Rio Verde has a country club that also is part of the community. The residents are a big part of the governance. Oh, sorry, I'm seeing notes that the audio is cutting out. Are folks having trouble hearing me?
I think as long as, if people are having trouble, I would suggest you try calling in. I think if you're listening on the computer, sometimes it's too quiet to be able to hear very well. So maybe just try calling in if possible.
And then the community association is mostly managed by a few staff and a whole lot of volunteer resident committees. So this effort to do planning in Rio Verde really started in 2010. They undertook a strategic planning effort with a 5-year focus around needing to think ahead about the future. And during that process, they realized the need for even further long-term planning and the interest in pursuing a sustainability planning process and certification. So they formed a steering committee that would then oversee the work with Audubon International, and they joined our program in June 2010. So initially, it was called the Sustainable Community Alliance and was one of the many volunteer committees. And that entity and the Common Area Landscape and Renovation Committee were the main ones that worked with us in the beginning to do the baseline assessment. And it was comprised of a number of residents, I think anywhere between 10 and 12, depending on the year. Over time, the Community Alliance, Sustainable Community Alliance, while it's kind of a nice, very beautiful, broad name, was not really connecting with the local residents. And so they changed the name of the committee to be Living Green in the Verdes, which seemed to really get that initial immediate reaction and recognition from folks to say, oh, yeah, I know what that's about, and I want to be a part of that. So during the initial work, they assessed what practices they already had in place in their community that were sustainable. One of the big ones was they had just done a solar installation on their community center, which you can see here. And this really helps to offset the energy use of their community center. They also identified that they've been using wastewater on their golf course. They have a 1.0 million gallons per day water plant that treats the water coming out of the community and then puts that water out on turf areas in the golf course. And I like to say, you really know a community is really getting to know itself better when it goes and does a tour of the wastewater plant. You can see here, this is an example of the golf course, and they've got signs up around, we're using reclaimed water. And really, the reclaimed water is being used to irrigate all of the turf areas on the golf course and is meeting, at times of the year, up to 100% of their water demands. Another aspect of the Rio Verde approach was in doing community engagement. So, as I mentioned, the initial steering committee was formed, and it does have a mix of residents and staff on it. They also undertook 2 rounds of surveys to get a feel for what residents were thinking about and concerned about, what they were already doing to be, sustainable. So in the first survey done in 2013, they identified that people were most concerned with water, and that people were sort of most valued assets in the community were the golf course and their trail systems. They followed up in 2014 with a more tailored survey that asked about what green devices were being used in and around homes. For example, how many people had solar panels, smart irrigation controllers, did recycling, what modes of transportation did people use to get around the community. And then they also developed a demonstration project in order to provide sort of a visible marker of the commitment to sustainability. Because of all this, they received the Green Community Award from Audubon International in June 2011, and then started on the Stage 2 process to do planning. They did a community event, you can see the flyer here, in early 2014, that had breakout sessions where they collected additional input from residents about goals and visioning for the plan. And then they've actually just completed their long-term sustainability plan and received their Sustainable Planning Award 2 months ago in January. I just want to note that most of the work done in Rio Verde was done by volunteers, which is pretty impressive, but also shows that this is a really doable process. Just to link back here, so if you remember, the APA's comprehensive plan standards included a process requirement of including authentic participation. And so this is where you want to make sure you're thinking about, are you engaging all segments of the community in visioning, in planning, and then in monitoring? I just want to give you a picture of what this long-term plan that they developed kind of looks like. This is a small excerpt of it. So for each of those focal areas that were listed, those 15 areas of sustainability in your community, they've then set goals, objectives, policies or strategies, timelines, and indicators for each of those. And so they've also identified responsible partners. Whose responsibility is it to implement these things? The indicators provide metrics for this process standard of accountable implementation that APA has. And having on each line, the goals linked with the strategies, linked with the indicators and policies, really helps you see that there's a connection between, if you start tracking and your indicator is not showing what you expected it to over the years, you can go back and say, maybe there's something wrong with our strategy, maybe our goal was not really what we had in mind, or maybe we need to rethink how we're going to achieve this goal. And finally, looking at one of the other APA requirements around coordination, it's important that a comprehensive plan be comprehensive, meaning covering all these different areas. And so setting up a table that shows that you've set goals and objectives and policies for all of the areas of your community is a really great way to make sure you've done a comprehensive approach. So I'm actually going to pass this off to Sal now. Sal Salona, as was mentioned, is the coordinator of Rio Verde's sustainability effort, and he's going to give you a little bit of perspective on how they tailored this process to their community and sort of their lessons learned. So let's see. Sal, are you there?
Okay. First of all, can you hear me? Okay?
Yes.
Anna?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I would like to thank her for all of the patience, understanding, and hard work over the past 2 years since she's been involved at Audubon. This process has started about 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, and it has been a long and arduous undertaking to achieve this prestigious award, and we're delighted that we will soon be achieving that in April, and I have to express my deep appreciation for her help, support during this whole process. So again, Joanna, thank you very much. But yes, I'm used to work for a living. I'm 55 and older. I'm a registered professional engineer and have been an owner here in Rio Verde since 2001. We became engaged in this process in 2010 as part of the strategic planning effort. And you're looking at a meeting of our committee. This was as a result of the Living Green Conference, The Sustainable Way is what it was titled. And we conducted a workshop during the course of that activity in the morning, and there were several other concurrent workshops going on with water conservation and xeriscaping and environmentally related. But we began the process, and I think it is essential that you involve the community as part of the partner in this whole process. We tried to engage them at every level, at every opportunity that we could. And this conference that took place back in February 2014 was a perfect vehicle for that. So we had a group of people join us that morning to go through our sustainability program to elicit comments and feedback and input to a brainstorming session, essentially, to determine what their concerns were, to discuss some of the projects and programs. And this is part of AI's requirement as far as community outreach and participation in this whole process. But as Joanna had indicated, there are 15 focus areas, but we are a kind of a unique situation out here in the high desert, literally on the outskirts of civilization here, as you understand it. We have a lot of wildlife around the community. We're surrounded by national parks, Indian reservations, and a Maricopa, about 17,000 acres of parkland for hiking and camping and so forth. So we're kind of isolated, but it's a beautiful location, and we have iconic views of the Four Peaks Preserve here. So, but what we did is we didn't rank the priorities of the focus areas. We made it either a primary priority or a secondary. These are the primary priority areas that we established going through our process. Some of the focal areas were not really pertinent, such as open space and land, the population, the economic development and tourism. I mean, pretty much we are a built-out community, so we have other priorities that we're more interested in. But this whole process in engaging the community was an essential part of this certification undertaking. So just to let you know. Right. To kind of give us a useful tool, we decided to develop, a matrix that incorporated both the fundamental focus areas on the top portion of it and the list of our projects and programs as they existed at that point in time. And this was part of the stage 2 tracking the portfolio step. We listed every project and program and activity that had a sustainable connection, a sustainability connection, and have about 3 or 4 pages of projects that were identified, categorized as best as we could, and also have project reporting forms. This shows in blue the projects that have project report forms completed as per AI's reporting requirements. Okay, so you understand that. But there are a number of others that have not been completed yet, but in terms of the report forms, but are in a definitive project that is sustainable and has had a long history in the Alberta. We didn't know what sustainability was until 2010 when we started talking about it with Audubon International. But we indeed have been practicing for over 40 years that our community has been in existence. And I'm sure, you have a similar situation where the communities and areas that you represent. But now we're categorizing them, we're identifying them, we are, making sure that we proceed in a direction that is improving our condition here in this community. So this was a tool, and I would be happy to share the full package with you if you're interested. We'll give you the contact information of the program. So if you need to get any information, I can be happy to send it along to you. This was the first project in the stage 1 that we completed as part of our commitment to Audubon International's objective in terms of a sustainable community. This was about a 10,000 square foot area off one of our golf course holes on the White Wing course. It was an in-play area until and this was a joint effort between the country club, which represents a substantial business undertaking in this community and is our largest enterprise. And while we profess to be golf-centric here, we actually have a whole lot more going on in terms of different activities and programs that we offer to our residents. But they are an important partner for our organization. As Joanne had indicated, we have two separate entities, operational entities. One is the country club, and the community association is our primary operational entity here in this community. So we converted this area. Now it is off limits, out of bounds, except when I play that hole, because that's where I usually end up in our beautiful garden. But it's a beautiful, dramatic site, and it attracts a lot of bees and hummingbirds and butterflies, and it's wonderful. So we completed that back probably in 2011, and we're going to be putting up signage there that identifies that for people that are visiting in the community. Next slide, please. Now, this is another program that the country club, the Rio Verde Country Club, has undertaken. They are a very aggressive and very sustainable-minded organization, thank goodness. Back about a year and a half ago, in fact, at our Green Conference that we had a workshop that was conducted by the chair of the Greens and Grounds Committee of the Country Club that identified several areas that they were going to be addressing as part of the sustainable initiatives in our community. This was one of the major ones. This was converting our parkland-style golf course, certain areas that are on the periphery, along roads that aren't, really playable or near, out of bounds. So we've converted those to desert-style landscaping. And this is still a work in progress, and this is something that we're really proud of and hoping to expand in the future. Right now we have about 12 acres that have been converted, and so we're really happy about that they are engaged with that. Now, as we mentioned earlier, this is some photographs from our Living Green in the Verde Sphere. We are committed to have one every 2 years. We already are scheduled to have one in 2016, but we're going to focus our area of lifestyles, which is the social wellness that was identified on the 3 pillars of sustainability, and economics and environment being the other 2. So anyway, it gave us an opportunity to educate our community, to listen, get some feedback from them. Not only do we have the workshops for Sustainability Matters, which is the one you saw in the earlier photograph, but we had others on geoscaping and on water consumption and water conservation. And so this young lady here was just talking about how to geoscape your residential garden areas, and we're really pleased about that. So that we're committed to as far as our outreach and public involvement with the sustainability effort. Slide, please. Joanna? Joanna, are you there? I don't know if you want me to.
Yes. Did it not advance on your screen?
No. Okay. Thank you very much. So now I'm going to conclude my portion of the presentation here by saying, just summarizing that, it's a community effort. You must involve, and it's over the long term. We completed this long-term sustainability plan earlier. Well, we actually had been working on it for 3 years during the course of this development, and we got the board to finally approve, our Rio Verde Board of Directors to finally approve it in December, at which time we sent it to Audubon International for their consideration, and they gave us their approval, and will be joining us here in April, on April 22nd, 23rd, to do their site to visit, to confirm all of their various programs, and to demonstrate our commitment to the environment and to our community. I think they will verify that. So our community is on a learning curve, let me put it that way. We're 55 and older, but I think there are more older than there are 55. So, it's kind of tough to get concepts, especially new and creative and progressive concepts through, and to get the buy-in from the community. But little by little, we're seeing progressively some acceptance and some involvement from the community in all regards to sustainability. So this is a big step for us. We'll get that certification, soon, but that's just the beginning of the whole process. And from that point on, we're going to need, their commitment, continued commitment and involvement. We also have outside support and resources, not only from Audubon International, but the ASU, Arizona State University Global Institute of Sustainability has been a partner with us. We've had them here, speakers here in our community on a couple of occasions, and they will be represented at our ceremony on the 22nd of April for getting the certification document and the papers. So we're excited about it, and we heartily recommend this program for anyone that's interested, and I would be happy to answer any questions and provide any information and documentation on our program that is requested. And this is my contact information. If you'd like to get in touch with me, I can also, let's leave it that way. I can give you a telephone, but I'd rather you just get in touch with me if you need to via the internet. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Sal. Yeah, and this is Joanna. It's really been rewarding to see, like I said, that this community, which Sal says, we're sort of older and slower to maybe respond to the ideas of sustainability, but once they broke it down into some practical projects and things that people could do at their own homes, you get interest and you start to get questions and have to be ready to sort of answer those questions. But really shows that people are receptive to this, and with a little bit of outside help and as he said, a lot of local commitment, this can really be done anywhere. So thanks, Sal, for that.
Thank you.
So we'll move on now to our next case study. It's an example from Florida, sort of the other sunny part of the country, a small city in Florida near Miami. Coconut Creek joined the Sustainable Communities Program in 2006 and achieved certification in 2011. I think the Coconut Creek story really shows how this process is adaptable, not only depending on the size and type of your community, but depending on what you've already got going on, you can sort of build sustainability in at any point in the process. And also, we'll share, as we talk about Coconut Creek, some of the pieces that are really key to making sure your plan gets implemented and monitoring results in a way that's really effective and engaging over time. So I'll give a couple pieces about the history and then turn it over to Linda and Sheila. When Coconut Creek came to us interested in our certification program, they had a lot of great stuff already done or underway. They completed the baseline assessment to identify existing practices and plans in place, and we learned at that time about their Greenway master plan that they'd created and their project where they'd created design standards for Main Street as part of a downtown revitalization project. So then at the point where they entered the second stage of the process, they had already drafted a green plan for the city, and so we were able to provide input based on plan standards, best practices, and principles of sustainability before it was finalized by the city in 2010. So when the plan is written, it really, needs to have a mix of long and short-term goals. And so what happened in Coconut Creek was that they had set some short-term goals, strategies, and started measuring indicators over time. They formed a structure that they could then use to track implementation and report progress. So that plan table that you saw earlier, you'll see another version of that is Coconut Creek's version, that they can use during implementation to update indicators and check back and see if the strategies need changing or modification to achieve goals. Because we want to see plans that are great and comprehensive and community-based. We also want to see plans that are practical and that are being implemented. So implementation means you're able to show that you've taken the initial action. So in 2010, they were able to demonstrate that they had already started 26 of their action items from the plan and completed 2 of them. And we're talking about things like putting in the budget funds to increase the number of bus shelters and bike racks, the city shuttle services, and expanding the greenway trails. This was all being communicated through their green report, which was created for annual monitoring and is overseen by the green team. And so this kind of a model is really helping to achieve that standard from APA's comp plans standards of accountable implementation, showing who's responsible, where is the funding coming from, what are the metrics we use to track it over time. And then one of the great things that Coconut Creek has done that also is a best practice from APA is linking these plans and progress reporting with budget planning, so that you're tracking over time not only the projects you want to do, but making sure it's actually integrated into budget conversations. So this is the process that they underwent and then got certified that showed that they'd really demonstrated the ability through reports, through the plan and the updated green reports to show that they've accomplished something and accomplished those initial steps in implementation. So I'm going to turn it over now to Linda and Sheila to tell us more about their experience of this story.
Hi, Joanna. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Okay, we're going to get set up here. Just 1 second, and then you can let me know if you can see. Can you see our screen?
Yes, and if you display the presentation slideshow format, you should be good to go. Yep, looks good.
We're good?
Wonderful.
All right, excellent. And thank you, Joanna. This is Linda Whitman. Sheila Rose and I will be presenting today, and we're going to discuss our city, the origins of our green plan, and the process of our annual green plan reports. Just to reiterate, we are the Coconut Creek. We're located in the Standard Metropolitan Statistical Area of Miami-Dade County. We're in north central Broward County, and we are north of downtown Fort Lauderdale and about 6 miles west of the Atlantic Ocean.
Linda, I'm going to interrupt real quick. It looks like we're only seeing part of your slides.
Maybe we've made it too big.
Let's see.
Is that better?
Is it better if we keep it this way?
Jenny, do you have any suggestions?
No, I think we're still only seeing about a quarter of the slide. If you just maybe shrink your window up towards the left.
Yes, and now display.
Is that better?
We're still only seeing a little bit of it. Let's see.
Click right on the slide. Or instead of running it, run it here. Can we run it like that? Is that what we're doing?
That's what we were doing.
Sorry, folks. We'll figure it out.
So the full screen.
Full screen.
Okay, I got that.
Yeah, so it looks like you're showing the slideshow, but we're only able to see part of it for some reason. Maybe your screen is bigger than...
Well,
Maybe let's shrink.
Do you want me to pull up another version of it?
if you'd like to try to do that, that's fine. Because I'm not really sure.
Try to view fit to screen.
Yeah, does that work?
It looks like it might be getting a little better if you, the way you had it, we could see more of it. Well, we can see the whole slide there.
There you go.
Oh, now it's cut off again.
Oh, so let's make it.
Yep, you can make it a tiny bit bigger, and then we'll be able to see it, and you guys should be good to go.
How's that?
Okay, and we'll send out the PowerPoint afterward.
That looks good. Go for it.
Okay.
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 Just jumping back in. Hi, this is Sheila Rose, and Joanna, it's so nice to hear from you, and thanks for all of your help during our certification process, and thank you, Linda, for sort of giving that kind of introduction. As Linda mentioned, this is Sheila Rose. I'm the Director of Sustainable Development with the city, and I joined the city about 15 years ago when we were quickly entering what looked like crisis mode. We had NIMBYs proposed on all of our borders with the expansion of the landfill. Enron, who we credit ourselves with putting out of business, proposing a new power generation facility on our border, and the county proposing an expansion of a wastewater treatment plant. And as a planner coming out of the consulting industry, something that was really evident when I came to Coconut Creek was a suburb without a real image. And it was concerning that our image was quickly becoming the armpit of the county and the receiver of all of these negatives. So in an attempt to sort of stem the tide of negativism, we developed a theory of the butterfly capital of the world. And, who doesn't love a butterfly? With it being a teaching tool that we could use not only with our city staff, but with our residents to engage them in the process of doing a couple of things. One is improving our sustainability, but probably more important was creating an image for a community that really was just a collaboration of subdivisions. So with what we refer to as Fluffy or Fluffy on the Green, we went forward in 1999 and 2000 to create an image campaign, a marketing and a branding campaign based on what we saw as a positive image of the city, which was the city in Broward County with the largest amount of open space, with natural preserve lands dotting all of our major commercial corridors, and as home to Butterfly World, which is, if you don't know, which is the largest indoor butterfly aviary in the country, and it's certainly worth visiting. Let's go on to the next slide. In 2000, we started with a visioning process after bringing our entire city staff along with this concept of the butterfly capital of the world. And by doing that, we took the time to give in-house butterfly gardening lessons to all of our public works staff, to all of our park staff, to the planning staff, with the idea that if we could encourage them to understand the sensitivity of how to protect a butterfly, we could start and use that as a springboard for a larger mission of creating Coconut Creek as a unique place that was more sustainable than anybody else in the county. And with that in mind, we hosted what we refer to as Visions 2020, where we brought forward representatives from all sectors of the community, residents, business people, city employees, county employees, other agency representatives, and we did a one-day gathering that involved somewhat of a charrette concept, but more a charrette visioning in terms of lifestyle desires and what the community saw as important. And we took those findings and gelled them into a strategic plan for the city that focused on a sustainable component for every element of our operations, from our public works, our utilities and engineering, and probably simplest, our planning and development staff, because those planners live and breathe that type of development. They were all on board, and our mission was to bring along all of the other departments to make sure that when we needed money from the finance department for something like, for instance, we'll move on to the next slide, a free tree giveaway, they were willing to participate. So we started with the idea of community events to teach the concept of butterfly gardening, with the idea that that people would come along, staff would come along, and it would grow into a larger sustainable mission, and it was very, very successful. At our first Arbor Day, which was now 14 years ago, free tree giveaway, we had over 700 residents show up with lawn chairs, waiting in line for their free tree and their 3 free butterfly plants. And every year since then, that event has been even more successful. And we see that as an opportunity to create ambassadors for sustainability in the community. So it's a really easy way, just giving away a few free plants, we have found is a really cheap way to create and solidify ambassadors in your community to carry forward the sustainable mission. And let me stop here and say, thank you so much to Joanna for all of the work that Audubon International has done. In Broward County, there was a move just a few years before Audubon International started, we started talking about Audubon International in Broward to do backyard wildlife habitat certifications. And I bring this up because the National Wildlife Federation has a not nearly as rigorous, actually a fairly simple certification process, but we found it was a really attractive hook to get people excited and interested in the concept of sustainability. So the National Wildlife Federation offers just backyard habitat certifications, but they also offer community-wide habitat certifications. And this I bring to your attention because Coconut Creek is a small town. We're 50,000, but we are smack dab in the middle of a major urban area. And in Broward County, there are 31 or 32 other municipalities. And that spirit of competition between cities is the only way we saw making significant sustainable changes effective, because as a small town, if we're just a drop in the bucket, people are driving through our city. If they're not conscious of what we're trying to do, we're not being effective. So we saw that concept of egging our neighbors on and encouraging them to participate or challenging them to keep up with us as probably the most important thing that we've done in our sustainable initiatives. So I would throw that out as a suggestion that, if we're not urging our neighbors to do the same thing or better, it's pretty hard to be sustainable. Joanna and Linda both mentioned the Green Plan, and let's move to the next slide. Most of us cringe, if you're in the professional planning world, at the concept of another document and another planning document that might sit on a shelf. But what we found to be really important, and I say this to the local governments on the line, is that the Green Plan was a little bit of a top-down approach where the planners, who all live and breathe sustainability every day, got the local government elected officials to buy into the Green Plan and thus compelled the other departments to follow suit. And I say that, without being jaded, but when a public works department is faced with a project and the first question is, what's the budget? It becomes imperative to have your government, your elected officials in place and demanding compliance with an adopted standard. So the Green Plan not only advances the city's green culture, we think it shows that Coconut Creek is sort of a leader in sustainability. We can share it with our residents, and it shows that we're following up on all of the things that they suggested during our visions process. But it, more importantly, gives our staff and our department heads a directive on how projects are to be developed in Coconut Creek over the longer term, so that the budget issues and those short-term decision-making processes don't involve removing the solar panels from the bus shelters because they might not be the cheapest route in this budget year. So we think that was really an important reason. The main objectives of our Green Plan are to address, Coconut Creek's environmental issues. We started with the idea of really trying to get a handle on measuring our greenhouse gas emissions, and what we found was that all of the big science related to greenhouse gas measuring and reductions was being handled at either a state or at a much larger scale than a small city. And we really wanted to show that we were addressing this issue, and we wanted to show that we were making progress, and again, we wanted to challenge our neighbors to make progress, because if Coconut Creek is the only town in Broward County or Miami-Dade County that's making progress on reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, we're not making progress as a county or as a region in addressing the climate change issues. So we saw developing our green plan as an opportunity to set a template and to make that template available to our neighbors and sort of to challenge them to move right along with us. It's a pretty easy method to follow, and it is an ambitious, goal-oriented plan. I encourage you to take a minute and look through it, but when you see the green plan and then again the annual monitoring reports, you'll see that sometimes we're falling short of our goals. We think that's probably, of course, we would like to be meeting all of our goals, but our theory at this point is if we're meeting all of our goals, we haven't set them high enough, because our mission is to bring the rest of the world along with us. So with that, the benefits of reporting, are we there yet? Benefits of reporting on our green plan has been particularly important as it relates to our finance department and our integration of these green programs into our budget initiatives. We have what we term fluffy on the green, which is included in our budgeting process, and in fact our finance officer has been given awards from the local government finance accounting folks for bringing this concept forward. And the idea is that we not only have programs that we carry through from budget year to budget year, we have a reporting system that shows the residents and the finance department and the city manager's office our progress on these various initiatives. So that's why when you see on our implementation, and Linda's going to flip to that one next, we're making progress. I will say that the standards outlined in our green plan were the optimistic standards, and we are striving to meet those standards. But we think as long as we're making progress, it's a good model to follow. One of the things that we think is really unique about Coconut Creek and our design standards is that we require that buildings, new construction in our city, be at a minimum LEED certified, or that they have a LEED certified professional as part of their design team, so that any new projects that come into the city during the original conception, during the site plan approval process, are reviewed for their sustainable practices. What we were finding is that oftentimes plans start through the approval process, and there may be a site development plan that is approved by a planning and zoning board or a city commission, or there might even be a rezoning application. And then the construction drawings come forward, and that's when the LEED professional is brought on. What we've found is engaging someone with the expertise from the U.S. Green Building Council right at the very beginning allows us to incorporate those types of site amenities that gets buildings certified at a higher level. So when I said earlier we require the LEED certification, that standard certification is a wonderful thing. But adding, for instance, bus shelters, bike racks, and connections to greenways is one of the ways that your buildings get moved through the ranking system, either to silver or gold or, hopefully platinum. So that's kind of an interesting twist, and if anybody is interested in looking at the ordinances related to that, they're available on our website. Linda's going to talk about some of the initiatives in our green plan, some of the specific initiatives that we think are pretty creative, and we hope that some of you on the line will want to copy. So, Linda, do you want to go into urban nature?
I will. As a part of our green plan, we instituted a tree canopy replacement program. This was particularly interesting because we demonstrated a citywide community benefit using the National Tree Benefit Calculator. This allowed us to use public funds for planting trees on private property. The rationale, which was approved by our legal department, considered that, among other things, trees improve air and water quality, reduce energy demands, prevent erosion and pollution, and et cetera. While it's more difficult to quantify these benefits in dollar amounts, they are important to the community as a whole.
Hey, Linda?
Yes?
This is Jenny. I just wanted to know, we're just past 2 o'clock, so if you have a few of the key examples you want to hit on, that would be great. I'm not sure if we have time to finish up the rest. Sorry for the crunch.
That's all right. I'm going to move on to our complete streets, and then
We'll wrap it up.
We'll wrap it up with our most recent certification.
So this is Sheila again. I hope you'll take a chance to look at the slides online. But one of our newest initiatives is our Complete Streets Master Plan, where we're developing a master plan for the city that provides for bicycle lanes on all the major arterials as well as greenway connections. And we were recently awarded the Healthy Wake Communities Award and the First Lady's Let's Move Initiative Award for our getting our residents out using alternative modes of transportation. And so that's really an exciting new initiative that we're pretty proud of. We're going to skip on to that. And then Linda's going to jump into the gold certification that we just got.
Our most recent achievement was to achieve the local government gold level certification from the Florida Green Building Coalition. The requirements for this particular certification, as outlined by the FGBC, stem from a keen knowledge and understanding of Florida and our communities. The data collection took over 18 months and required the collaborations of the city's green team, which is comprised of a representative from each of the departments in the city. Through thorough review and consultation with the Florida Green Building Coalition staff, our application was submitted and evaluated this past fall. And in January, we were advised that we received the highest score in Broward County, and we have the 5th highest score in the state of Florida, which is an achievement that we are immensely proud of.
And congratulations to Linda for that work.
And so we also leave you with our contact information and our website if you want to go in and take a look at our green plan or any of the other initiatives that we have in the city. And if you have
questions, we're here.
We're here.
Excellent. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I mean, there's so much great stuff to share. It's hard to squeeze it down. This is Joanna. I'm just going to give also now my contact information so that you guys, if anybody's interested, we are love to have more communities join the program, and we are eligible for any community in the country is eligible to join. And so I think let's hand it over while I'm sharing this. Why don't we hand it over to you, Jenny, to do questions?
Sure, that sounds good. Let's see here. Did you have a slide you wanted to show, or can I bring up my desktop?
Are you seeing this slide? Let's see.
I'm seeing a list, a Word document with a list of.
Nope.
Sorry, everyone. This is our first webinar, so we'll get it all figured out.
That's all right. You can go ahead. You're going to share these anyway, so folks can find the contact information when you share the slides later. Yeah.
Sure. So I'll skip over my Q&A slides. Sorry. Oh my God. So just before we do a couple quick questions, I just wanted to note, here's the event number for logging CM credits. Again, it's worth 1 AICP continuing education credit. So if you have any questions, the email to contact is on there. Once we close out here, I'll send an evaluation survey, which is required for CM credit. Even if you're not doing the CM credit, we'd love to hear from you, to hear your ideas. And then I have a note about the the Smart Cities Initiative through APA just started a Mind Mixer site, so you should check that out if you have time. But there were just a couple of questions that I wanted to get to. So one question, and thank you again, those of you who are able to stay. Sorry we're running late. There's just two questions. One is, back from Joanna, when you first began the presentation, someone asked if there was a recommended number of people to invite to the steering committee. The person who's asked this question said they've heard of a trend to include as many as 100 community leaders in planning processes. Is there kind of an ideal number that you like to invite, or a particular group?
Yeah. Yes to both questions. So I would say generally it's a pretty successful number would be between 10 and 15 representatives on your steering committee. And you're looking to make sure you have a mix of residents, any key businesses, or key sort of anchor institutions in your area. You might want representatives from them. If you already have any sort of major sustainability-related nonprofits or citizen initiatives, you might want a representative from them on your group as well. But you could also be looking for, like, faith leaders, educational, teachers or educational system leaders. So really you want to get a mix of the different aspects of your community to be engaged in the steering committee. That said, I think it can be really helpful to have a much larger group involved in the conversation, and that's where those community meetings that we really recommend happen during that planning process, where you're doing large community meetings, maybe breakout groups within those community meetings, presumably a series, so you're having a big, maybe a generalized brainstorming session with folks at the beginning of the visioning process, and then we recommend breaking into like focus area groups. So that would be a place where you would want to have, hopefully hundreds of people coming and being part of that conversation. And there's ways we can structure those so that you really get a lot out of all those people being there. But I think in terms of overseeing, this sort of multi-year assessment and planning and implementation effort, it could be unwieldy to have such a large steering committee. That said, you can have a sort of a list of people that receive updates that could be much larger than the steering committee. Each steering committee member could be sort of representing a group and then reporting back to them. So I think there's ways to structure it that do have that inclusive nature, but are a bit less unwieldy than a 100-person steering committee, which sounds terrifying.
A lot of people, but a lot of people have opinions, I guess. The other question we got was, I think when Sal was presenting, they said they're curious to know how specifically you engaged the community, and particularly if you surveyed the community, how you ran the survey and what kind of participation you got. I don't know who would like to respond to that, but any of you should feel free.
Sal, do you want to speak to that?
Okay. The survey I think you're referencing was I'm trying to think the name of it. The Treasuring Home Survey, is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, well, we did two, right? So there was the first one.
Yeah, we did a
Treasuring Home.
Okay, the first one was the Treasuring Home Survey, which served as a good example for us, but was kind of benign in many ways, because it was only reflecting all the good things. It was, motherhood and apple pie. And we wanted to get, a little deeper and probe a little deeper into the psyche of our community and trying to, get to what really is important to them. So we revised that and produced another 3 pillars to a sustainable community is the questionnaire that we sent out. And it had questions about what type of solar systems would you like to see for your home, about water softening systems. We have a major issue here in our golf course irrigation with sodium in the water, irrigation water, and that's causing damage to the turf areas. So we're trying to, try to mitigate some of the effects of that salt intrusion from the water softeners, and we have done a white paper back in 2011, which indicated that that the portable exchange unit for water softening, rather than even the most efficient system, was a better option if you had to soften your water at all. So
and
that's
I think part of the question, Sal, is about what mechanism did you use for the survey? So I know for one of them, I think at least you did an online survey.
Yeah, yes, we did. The first one was through that Survey Monkey, whatever, right? I think that's the way we did one of them. But then we did another online survey and got a good response, and we actually coordinated with our Living Green and the Verdes conference, and we collected all the responses and compiled those. We got some 60 responses, which is pretty good, even though we're 1,400 people in our community. Right. But that was a good response. It gave us a good indication of what was of interest and what of concern to the community, where they wanted us to look and
this is Joanna. I'll just add that so we provide survey tools both through SurveyMonkey and through a paper copy, and so often communities will just send out an announcement email through whatever their sort of email list is. So in this case, they have the community association has a list of all the residents, and they send it out by email. And I think you even posted it in some public places for folks to respond. You can also do it as a mailing out to residents. And so usually, doing that sort of broadcast to everybody that lives in your community is the way to go. You tend not to get, more than, the best I've seen is like 15% response rate, which is actually, it's fine. You can use that. That's informative. It's a fine sample size. I think in Rio Verde, the first one, we got about a 7% response rate, and the second one was like a 5%, which is kind of pretty average. So, yeah.
Right.
Great. Well, thank you guys for your responses, and thank you everyone who stuck around. As I said, I'll send out CM info and survey info, so we'd love to hear from you. And we'll let you know about any other future webinars. We have some in the works, not till after the conference. But speaking of the conference, I hope if you're going to be there, we'd love to see you on Sunday, April 19th from 6 to 8 at Pike Place Market, where Sustainable Communities Division is having our reception and awards program with the Urban Design and Preservation Division as well as the International Division. So hope to see you there, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joanna?